Well, today's agenda, this evening's agenda. My name is Carl Toom. I'm the board president, and I want to. Can we go to the next one? I want to thank you for coming this evening, spending time of your busy schedules to spend some time with us this evening. And certainly your interest in visions, because you'll probably hear me say a couple times at least, it takes a village. So it's people who are boots on the ground. It's people who are sort of doing the administrative stuff. It's the people that are working directly with the residents that make vision for what it is. And certainly thanking you in general for helping to make a difference in the lives of the residents, their families, and in the community, and all the people that really benefit by having such a wonderful organization as Visions. Let's see if this works. So there's one order of business, because this annual meeting is kind of a combination of having the community have the opportunity to spend time with the board and other staff members, but also the board is here, and it's kind of our monthly meeting as well. So this piece of business shouldn't take too much time, but it's approving the minutes from last year's annual meeting. And I presume that the board members who are present and the ones that are, I guess, zooming in, do we have a motion to approve those minutes? So, Carol, do we have a second? Cinda, any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Very much, Roger. And any folks who are opposed or abstentions?
Carl, this is Scott. I'm in favor. I don't know how you want me to indicate that virtually.
Scott is talking to me here.
I can't hear on mine. I muted everything on my end.
What are you saying, Scott? I'm talking.
I'm in favor. I don't know how you want me to indicate that virtually.
Very odd. Speaking to the computer. All right. Okay. So that's our one order of business. So tell you, oh boy, just got ahead of myself. Okay. So again, my name is Carl Toom. I'm the board president. I've been doing this for 7 years. My first introduction to Vision, specifically Sylvia, was that she was one of the special ed teachers at the Richmond School when my daughter Alexia was there. And she and the others on that staff were so terrific and so supportive of Alexia during her time at the Richmond School that we kept her there. Probably not the best verb to use there, but she was there for an additional year, which was so good. But that's how I got to know Sylvia, and then we saw each other periodically at Special Olympics events and so on and so forth. And she approached me one day and said, "Would I like to be on the board?" And I said, "Yes." And sometime later, I said yes when she asked me to be the board president. And it's a privilege and it's an honor, and I'm happy to do it. So I'm in my fourth year as the president, and I'm along with Lisa, parents of Alexia, who will be in the Hanover site. So the board goals are in some ways several, but I've winnowed them down to 3, and this is key. And I've sort of observed myself as the president to just say that I see this as being so important for Visions, its strength, its future, especially as we grow from 2 sites to 3 sites. And that allows us to then do really meaningful strategic planning. So we're just not sort of whistling in the wind and saying, we'd like to do this, we'd like to do that. We have to do this in a careful, thoughtful way that usually is attached itself to a dollar amount. And also building the board. So in some ways, the annual meeting is a good opportunity for us to say, for those of you who have an interest to serve on the board, please talk to me or one of the other board members. And we're trying to build it in terms of expertise, experience, background, besides interest. So this is one of our goals as well. So the other board key focuses, I guess I can say, we're done with there, is to maintain, enhance Sylvia's and David's original mission of providing supported living that's positive and has its culture, very specific culture for its residents. And that continuing from that allows us to support the board in particular, is to support that mission, staff, the management, all these wonderful people that make Visions what it is. And I've already spoken to enhancing the Visions goals for growing from 1 to 3 sites. So it takes a village. There are a lot of folks that make Visions happen. And I don't know if I need to read all the names here, but many of the board members are here. Some of the staff members are here. All play a very, very important role in making Visions what it is. So I think that's what I have to say to you this evening. The other thing I have to do is to introduce you to our wonderful, very gifted, very dedicated executive director, Sylvia, who's in conference right now.
I just want to thank all of you for being here. This community has been so supportive of my dream, our dream. And I have so many people to thank, but I think if I list them all, we're going to be here for hours and hours. Most importantly is the staff. Without the staff supporting our residents, our direct support staff, our managers, all the people that make things happen. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And to the families, the support that we get from the families is amazing. And then our community has been so generous in so many ways. Volunteering, the gifts, Enfield, way at the beginning, actually returned our property taxes one year. In lieu of taxes, they actually went back to the prior year and gave us, Carol remembers, a refund. How many towns do that? And Lebanon, and now Hanover. Everyone has been just so amazingly gracious. And the businesses that support us. And just all of you being here is so important. So that it's been a journey. And I wanted to say it's been a long, strange trip. And it's, today it's quite apropos that Corey Champ from Pathways, I had a meeting with her today and I gave her a tour of Green Street. I've been asking her to come to visit Green Street. Corey Champ is one of the directors of Pathways. She's my age. She's been doing it forever. I think I've known her, I don't know, could be 30 years, a really long time. In 2004, I asked Corey, can we get together with some other families and can we just talk about what we can do to have maybe, because my daughter both daughters, especially Ashley, very social. I want them to be able to live with their friends and, and then my daughter Emma, who needed a lot of care. I don't know how much longer, I can do this. This is 2004. And we actually, I'd forgotten, Corey reminded me today, we actually had an architect that came up with a design for us. Elizabeth, were you part of this group? I can't remember now. We met at the CCB. Phil, I think you were there. 2004, we met at the CCB with Corey Champ and some other families. And there were these pod units that we came up with. Everyone would have, maybe there were 3 people in a pod and we had a common area in the middle. And that was kind of the beginning. And then what we did is we traveled New England to look at other models. Carol, you visited the models with us. Yeah. We looked at specialized housing. We found this really cool respite house in Massachusetts. If I get a second win, maybe. But that was the early days. And what brought us together is that we were parents or we were friends, concerned. And we wanted to find, we knew that our kids wanted to fly out of the house like other kids, right? When they turn 21 or whenever, sometime, 30, sometime. They want to launch themselves, right? But they have to do it with support, right? And that's the hard part. And also, I became, because of my special ed background, one of Ashley's friends moved in with us. You know, I think Ashley was about 20 and her friend Miranda moved in. Miranda will say, if you ask her, what started Vision? She'll say, I started Vision. So Miranda, I became a home care provider. And I learned a lot about becoming a home care provider. And also, it's this is kind of weird. It's the same rules and regulations. It's called 1001 rules and regulations. That actually is what we are under. So I learned how to administer medication. I learned about all the rules that we had to follow, right? And my connections with Pathways, I wasn't just a parent anymore. Now I'm a provider. So I also would get inspected like we do now. I would have Jay come and do so I started to make all of these connections with people. And I would talk to Jay and I would say, you know, what would happen if we had more people living here? Because we had that property in Enfield, it was perfect. And David and I had always dreamed about, we would close the inn, you know, we would live there, but then someday we wanted our kids just to live there with their friends. Mm-hmm. So I worked really hard with the group, with Carol, the beginning Fred, the beginning board members. And we would get together and we would talk about how can we make this happen? But the state kept coming back to us. This is a word I hate, and I need to erase it from everyone's mind because it has such a negative connotation. Congregate living. So I would meet with Pathways, I'd meet with the state. This is our idea, right? And what would I hear? No. And why? They're congregating together. People with developmental disabilities or people with like interests can't congregate together. And I learned this even as a home care provider because Miranda wanted to have someone living. She ended up moving, you know, she moved from our house to the attached apartment. Well, now Nikki and Taylor live. And we tried to have like staff, people to live with her for free, you know, in exchange for supporting her. But then it never worked out, right? They never were true friends. She was lonely, never. So she said, can I just live with a friend? So I brought that up to Pathways. No, can't, because you already have 2 daughters, right, with special needs and Miranda, and you can't have a 4th, and it's congregate living. Yeah. So we need to wipe that from the state, because think about it. What is Kendall? Right? Congregate living. What about when you meet with your friends and you're playing poker or something, right? Having a ladies' night out. Well, you're congregating together. It shouldn't be a negative connotation. It shouldn't mean that people who want to live together can't live together. So I remember sitting around a table. Finally, I'll tell you, we pressed enough. Miranda did have a friend move in. That worked. But then I wanted more people to move in. And we, you know, and I would meet with, you know, Pathways or the powers that be. And I can remember being told no so many times and then give all these reasons. And I'd say, wait a minute, I'm a home care provider. I know other home care providers, and there are some wonderful home care providers. Home care providers is like adult foster care. There are some wonderful people out there. They're doing great work, but it's not for everyone. Not for my daughters. My daughter, Ashley, is so social and she wants to buy her alcohol and be with her boyfriend or, you know, whatever. That would not work. And then my daughter, Emma, who's nonverbal and needs, you know, you have to get up 10 times a night sometimes. I was exhausted. How would someone else be able to handle that and have no oversight? There's got to be choices in our state and in our country. So I was told no so many times. I get teary-eyed about it. And I can remember once leaving a meeting and I called Peter Bacon. He was at certification. And I'd say, Peter, they keep telling me that we can't do this. I thought because I read everything. Oh, I think I forgot to tell you something throughout all this. In 2011, I had a little meningioma, non-cancerous brain tumor removed. This is where I got all my reasoning for doing this. And, the surgeon said it's just like getting your tonsils out. Went in, had the surgery. The tumor was about the size of his hand, I guess. I didn't think anything of it. I was in a horse show the day before. Went in. And I kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And I had this bump on my head and couldn't talk sometimes. I was in the ambulance going back and forth to Hitchcock. I was, anyway, crazy. And December 17th, my surgery was September 11th. December 17th, I had pus coming down out of my head. I had an infection in my brain. I had an infection from the surgery. And believe it or not, that's what really gave me the kick in the butt to get this done. So you can't tell me no in a meeting because this is going to happen. And I was on steroids. Steroids are wonderful. I would sit there and I'd write business plans and come up with budgets. And because I would use the budgets, like Miranda's budget, right? I had all this experience in what I was doing. And I said, and then the next thing is, we got to a certain extent, right? So we asked for a 501c3. We worked with a lawyer who, helped us out with that. Yep. Finally, it seemed like forever. It took us like a year to get our 501c3, and we opened up our doors. But then still, it's the congregate setting, right? That's still, I don't think you're going to be able to receive Medicaid funds because it's a congregate setting. Now, I was a special educator, right? I went to all the inclusion classes, the Institute of Disabilities. I researched, that was my mantra, right? Working with students to get them out in the community, give them jobs, meaningful lives, volunteering, getting up every day and having something to do, right? That's my mantra. You can't tell me that we're not doing a better job than even some home care providers, because that you're not giving more choice and more independence. So I'm going to prove you wrong. So the heightened scrutiny from the Institute of Disabilities came. We were already open. We already had a lot of facts and figures. And they did a complete audit. They interviewed all our parents, all of our residents. They looked at all our notes, the hours that this is what really, and I had everything charted up. The hours that each resident spent engaged in the community. And they were shocked. We far surpassed anything else that they had ever seen. And they gave us glowing, we like this model. And that's what really started us to and who knew, right, Carol? Who knew, Fred, that we would, when we opened our doors in 2014, we were just doing it, right, for our own kids and a few other people who were going to move in, right? We weren't going to do anything more than Enfield. My husband still is angry. But then we started getting, more and more, I want my son to live there. I want my daughter to live there. Or I'd pick up the phone or have a Zoom call. There was a mother, I don't know if she lived in Nashua somewhere. She had lost her husband. I think she was in her 70s, maybe early 80s, and she was taking care of her daughter with cerebral palsy. She had like 20 hours a week help. And she was doing everything. She was bathing, helping her daughter get out of bed. And there was nothing else for her. And I hear that. That's not a solitary story. I hear that all the time. Deborah, you're getting some of that. Where are you, Deborah? Deborah now is helping me with it because it became so overwhelming. I needed help even fielding the emails and the calls and everything else. There was such a need. So we were able to do it. We showed the state that we were doing a good job. We weren't that old-fashioned group home where we march everybody all together. They all were, right? They had independence. They have our residents have better social life than I have, right? They have all these activities. They get to hang out. They get to have choices. They get to do really what they want. And I'll say, we don't do everything perfect. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. Staffing is hard. but we're trying. That's our mantra. That's our culture. We have to remember it as vision. So I remember that first year. I don't know if you remember this too. We didn't get funding right away because we were told we should go one type of funding, 525, but then we realized you can't share staff, which is obviously, that's how Visions works. And we went for many, many months without funding. I remember doing payroll. Do you remember payroll? I would run to the bank and I would put my own money in the Visions checking account so we could cover payroll. I mean, that was it for at least 6 months, right? Yep. It was really hard at the beginning, but we did it. And we did it because of parents, of the board, the community that helped. I'm probably talking way too long. But anyway, I think I'm only in 2015. I hope you all like brought your pajamas or something. But then we finally did it. But then we did such a good job, right? So we ended up getting through the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. I meet these amazing people. That's what I also want to say. I meet amazing people. Oh God, and I can't remember her name now, but I met someone through the Community Development Authority, Community Development, CDFA, Finance Authority. And I met her through some connection that I had. And she originally wrote a grant through the town of Enfield to see if they could help us like renovate Sunrise Farm. So through that, we got this wonderful, first of all, a study, and the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority gave us a 0% deferred loan, which in other words, you don't have to pay as long as you every year you have to do a lot, but it's not really free, but you don't have to pay it back. But anyway, we were able to renovate Enfield, new furnaces, new carpeting, painting, the solar system. And then I was helping a group in Concord, and they were trying to also come up with a supported housing option. And they had received quite a bit of funding through New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority, over $1 million. They had all their funding in place in Concord. They had property that they were going to, purchase. They were all set to sign the dotted line. But what they didn't do, and I was trying to help this group, what they didn't do, you have to do the groundwork first. You have to know, how are you going to support these residents? You have to and that's the connections. You have to work with your area agency. You have to get them on board. Like I got Pathways on board. And Pathways they were wonderful, wonderful supporters. Once they said yes, they actually, every month I would meet with one of their directors who really helped us to kind of get everything underway. So they didn't have that, and they basically walked away from this deal. So all of these families who thought they would have this wonderful supported housing model in Concord, they never got together again. Nothing ever happened, and they're still, I think, trying. I think there's a group again in Concord who are trying. So because of that, New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority said, Sylvia, why were you able to do it? And I'm just a mom. These were lawyers, doctors, blah, blah, blah. You're just a mom, so I don't do it alone. It takes a village, right? It takes a village. And it not only takes the village of the board and the families, but it takes the community. It takes all those connections that we made with Pathways, that we made with our town, everybody that we met, the Community Development Finance Authority, everybody that we met. So they ended up giving us a $50,000 grant. And that grant partially was to help us develop more models. We promised the toolkit, yeah, and to write the toolkit. So at first, I remember we had these big pieces of paper in Megan's office. Do you remember those? The dashboards and what we were supposed to include in this toolkit. And I said to my friend Mary Ellen, who's my executive assistant, can you help me write this toolkit? And she's like, I don't know where to start. So somehow we got Ben Saul's name. And I called him up, and he's a parent. He's with our organization. And, but this was before, I'd never met him before. And I met him in Concord, I think maybe 6 times or so. And we would meet together at the Starbucks, and I would just start telling from the very beginning, and I would just feed him stuff. I would just send him attachments of everything we had, all of our everything. And he wrote the housing toolkit. Needs to be updated because things have changed a little bit, but it is phenomenal. And we started keeping track just a little while ago, but actually I think when it first came out, I had calls from Arizona, California, Michigan, Wisconsin, definitely Vermont, Massachusetts, Maine. There are so many people who are trying to replicate what we're doing.
Currently, since we started keeping track, which was a year ago this past September, we've tracked 80 people, 80 separate people. Some people have downloaded it more than once, but 80 people from 15 different states have downloaded the tool.
So, and we have, I will say that there are at least, one group in Dover has now purchased property. It's our place. And, I've been working with Lori and her board and met with the architect, and they've purchased property. They're going to start doing something there, which is great. There's another group in Laconia who's trying to put something together. There's another group in northern New Hampshire and southern New Hampshire that's trying to put something together. It's important in our state that we have choice. And visions isn't for everyone. We have failed some people. I'll be very honest with you. We have failed some people. We can't, there's some things we're not good at, right? And that's okay. We can admit that. We're good at some things, we're not good at others. Oh, pivotal time for change. Well, here we are. So anyway, so you know the story. Then we opened up Green Street. And then at the same time, we were given Outreach House so generously by the Outreach Board. It's great property. How could we say no, right? And we were told New Hampshire Housing, we were going to develop more sites. So anyway, so we did. Oh, and Outreach House, I was just talking about the board. So thank you so much for coming tonight. So I'm just going through the history. I've been like blabbing a little too long, I think, but how could we say no to such a generous donation of this beautiful property in Hanover? Well, I can't wait to give you a tour. I can't wait to give you a tour. So we promised to open up a couple other sites. We will, and we realize, Megan, right? It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. I can't tell you how many nights, I know me personally, it scares me sometimes. It's so much work, and I want to make sure it keeps going, right? And that we can support our residents and support our staff, and that we all don't kind of, say, oh, this is just too much and we can't do it. We have to make sure that we support this organization. It is so important, not only for the residents that we serve, but for the others who are looking at this as a solution. We have to be successful. So I just think the growth in 10 years, it's phenomenal. It's amazing. And this beautiful house that we're building in Hanover, it'll be fully accessible. It's, I'm so excited for the residents who are going to move in. And I just went to Green Street with Corey, and I did a tour with her, and they were having a birthday party for someone else, someone in the community, one of their friends, and quite a few people were there. It's just feels, you walk in the door and it feels like home. And that's when so many people who have visited Visions, that's what they say. You walk in the door, it's not an institution, right? It feels like home, and it has to feel like home. So all of you, right, hold it to your chest that we have to make sure that Visions stays viable and successful, keeps the true vision of being in the community, being engaged, to give back, to volunteer, to work, to have meaningful lives. That's what we have to make sure that we can do. So I'll blab too long. There'll be a video after that I'll summarize. I think I said.
Hello, I'm Bill Black. I'm the chair of the Finance Committee. Fred is the treasurer. So I'm showing his slides. Okay, so we're starting off with the revenues, and a couple of major points to make here is that you can see more than half of all our revenues come from Medicaid reimbursements from the state. And in 2023, the most recent year for which we have stats, you can see the second most common source of revenue was the Hanover capital campaign. And then after that, there was a room and board that the residents pay, and then there's some general donations. But Medicare is responsible, or Medicaid is responsible for over half of our payments. You can also see from this graph that since 2022, the total revenues have increased a little bit. But the revenue from Medicaid is sort of stuck right now while we're dealing with the new reimbursement system in the state. I'll get to that more on some later slides. Any questions about revenue sources? Okay. With regard to, this is in regard to the Medicaid. Again, you can see that the Medicaid reimbursement has increased over the years, but it's sort of stuck right now because we're the reimbursement issues that are behind for Green Street, or for actually for all of provisions. The falling behind. You can also see from this graph that about 60% of our revenue, Medicaid reimbursements going for Green Street, about 40% for Sunrise Farm, and eventually some is going to become more is going to be coming from Hanover. It will be pretty much equal. Because we have 11 residents at each site. Okay, as far as expenses, you can see expenses are steadily increasing with our growth. You can see in 2023 that the majority of our expenses went to payroll, almost 75%. And that corresponds very closely with the fact that Vision spends over 75% or over 75% of its expenses are for the program mission. So that's actually a very good percentage, and that's one of the reasons why we can get funded. So, and let's see. So the next biggest source, our next biggest expense is the in 2023 is the building, the utilities, and after that administration. But by far and away, the biggest expense is payroll. Wages, you can see in 2024, we're projecting that about 70% of the wages will be going for clinical services or people who work in the clinical areas, about 30% for those in the non-clinical administrative areas, and about 3% is going to benefits for all employees. Looking at cash on hand, you can see it's taken a little bit of a dip in 2023, and the main reason for that is, again, the lateness of the Medicaid reimbursements. With the new Medicaid reimbursement system, where we're actually supposed to be getting paid a little bit more than we were before the change, it's so far behind that we're behind on our payments. We're behind receiving the payments. And this is the bottom line for 2023, the gains and losses. You can see overall net, we've done pretty well. This is in thousands of dollars. So we had an actual gain of 1.4 million. We were only expecting a gain of 0.6 million or 600,000. Most of that, almost that entire variance are greater gains than we were expecting is due to the really good capital campaign in Hanover. Now, if you throw out the capital campaign, we pretty much broken even. On the corporate side, we've actually done better than expected, largely because of general fundraising. But again, on the operations side at Green Street and Sunrise Farm, we're behind, and that's because of the lateness of the Medicaid payments. And that's about it, I guess. Any questions? All right, sorry, I didn't take longer.
Thank you, Bill. I'm Laura Perez, and I'll be giving a brief update about the development work that's happened over this last year. And I really want to start by saying a huge debt of gratitude to Lucinda Brown, who was in the development role for the first half of the year. And in her time in that role, she did a lot of work to strengthen the systems and processes that we needed to have a really strong program. So for me coming into the role, it was, she made my job easy coming in. And I would just want to thank you, Lucinda, for all that you did. And with all of that effort from Lucinda and the others on our development team, Deborah, and now Megan, our team is as strong as ever. And we had a really solid fundraising year. We received more donations from more community members than we ever have in the 10-year history of the organization. And thank you. I'm gonna talk to Lucinda for that. And it was, to me, one of the first things that happened when, I think by my first week or two into the job, we had a New Hampshire Gives campaign, which I had never seen a more successful campaign. And Visions received more donations than any other nonprofit in the Upper Valley. And it was just so incredible to see that and feel this sense of being embraced and supported by the community. It was a really overwhelming feeling of gratitude for the support that we received. So like I said, we have increased the number of donors who give, and we've seen an increase in the number of foundations who are giving. And we think, we know as this organization grows and as we move to open the Hanover House, that the development work is really critical to Sylvia's vision of keeping this, having the opportunity to provide services that are beyond what Medicaid covers. And that's what the feeling of home is, and like the culture of Visions is grounded in our ability to create more than what the state has to offer. And so I just think it's really amazing to feel that support from the community to create that. And the other thing I just want to mention, when in Fred's report that Bill presented, the gap in funding from Medicaid has been significant. I think it's $150,000 that we're waiting for from the state. And because of the strength of the development program, we didn't skip a beat. We had funds in reserve. We weren't having to tap into Sylvia's bank account like in the early days. We were able to continue programming because we have this strong base of community support. So I'm just grateful for that too. And I'll just take a minute to reflect forward to our goals for 2024. Our development team, which is strong and growing, hopes to really continue to strengthen our financial position through focusing on grant writing and developing relationships with foundations, and continuing the really strong work that both Lucinda and Kim have done around donor stewardship and building relationships with funders in the community, and starting to build upon the relationships that Sylvia has created with townships that we serve, so that we can strengthen that relationship in a funding way as well. So those are some of our goals around strengthening our financial position this year. We have other goals too, especially with all of the excitement for our 10-year anniversary, which is just such an incredible moment in the history of the organization. We have exciting plans that we hope will help to strengthen our image and awareness in the community. So one of the things, if you want to mark your calendar, that we have planned is July 25th, right, Deborah? On July 25th, we've invited Flame the band to come and join us in Lebanon on the green at the same time as the Hanover or Lebanon Farmers Market. And we'll be inviting City Council to adopt a proclamation for Developmental Disability Social Justice Day.
Americans with Disabilities Act and inclusion of the importance of the inclusion of people with all kinds of disabilities in our community.
Yeah, so yeah, as Deborah was saying, if you couldn't hear on Zoom, we've aligned our event with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and on top of that, we'll be asking the town to adopt a proclamation around disability social justice. And later in the year, in September, we'll be holding our annual open house at Sunrise Farm. And at several points throughout the year, we'll just be celebrating the monumental moment of being here for 10 years. And then our third goal for the year, which has started to happen, is to develop the capacity of our team. And as our need to raise more money grows, with the knowledge that we won't just be able to hire endless number of staff people to help us with the work, one of our goals is to create more capacity on our team to welcome the community to help us deliver on our fundraising goals. So that's a big goal that we have this year, is really having a way to receive support in doing this fundraising work. And then our last goal for the year, looking forward, is to really start to think about our readiness to develop an endowment for the organization. And we think of this as an important and necessary step to secure the financial future of the organization. But we have so many things happening right now between the completion of the Hanover Capital Campaign and the building of health and staffing that we're just really looking at our own readiness and ability to take that next step. So that's it for my report, but I really am happy to introduce Kim, who's going to be giving an update on the work that she and Lucinda have led around the Hanover Capital Campaign. Thank you, Laura. And then I just put, how do I move the slide? Okay.
Well, yes, I don't know whether I went on my glasses or not, but hello, my name is Kim Estes, and I'm the co-chair of the Hanover Capital Campaign with Lucinda. I am also the volunteer coordinator for Visions. And just want to first say it is such a privilege to be able to work for this organization, to fundraise for Hanover, and a privilege to be there for the residents of all of Visions. They're incredible. Our staff is incredible. The community has been incredible. It's overwhelming in so many ways. I hope not to tear up, but I can't guarantee that. But to give you an update on Hanover, we have come a long way, right? I mean, it started off, there used to be a house here, right here, outreach house. And we are so thankful for this most incredible, our largest donation ever of Vision. So thank you very much. And so we received that in 2019. And in 2022, it was a beloved home, just probably so many people. I don't know if you have a number of the people that you served over the years, but yeah, many. So I'm a historian. I love old buildings, and just to see it torn down, I can just imagine all the wonderful memories that were there. But it had to come down, and then we had a hole, and then it was graded out and started building in 2023 in the spring. And there we launched a lovely kind of cocktail party of some people,
and had a little party and a kickoff to this, what in the fundraising world is the silent campaign. And it's exciting because here we are. Here we are. And there's even more to this now. And if you ask Sylvia for a tour, I'm sure she'd love to give it. Can wear a hard hat and go in, but the sheetrock is up in most of the places by now, if not all by the next week or so. And it is pretty darn cool. I mean, I walk through there, I'm like, wow, like home to 12 residents. So this is exciting. And not just their home, but another place for all the residents of Enfield, Sunrise Farm and Green Street to come over and hang out with their friends. My daughter will be a future resident, and she's already established little friendships with Miranda and Ashley, getting to know Ashley more, and a handful of people at Green Street, and just the back and forth. Clary was taking a advanced transit yesterday over to the Hanover site, and oh my God, just how exciting, right? So very excited about that. There are many, many thanks. So you can see all the cool pictures of this, but let's see. So there are many, many, many thanks. Outreach Health, yes, but Sylvia, thank you to you. You could have stopped. You really could have stopped. My husband. Sorry, but you could have said no, but you didn't. So, so thank you for not stopping. Okay, let's see. To the residents, the current and the future residents, oh my word. So I really want to say thank you to them because, as a parent, we follow the lead of our children, and no matter what their abilities are, they want to be independent. They want to do their own thing. I have followed both my daughter's leads on whatever they've wanted to do. So thank you to the current and future residents as we follow your lead, your dreams, and support you in whatever unique way that is. And that's what this represents too. Thank you to the parents and families who have rallied around like this project to make it happen, whether it's a bake sale, whether it's spreading the word, whether it's building community, maybe it's writing a check. But there's so much that goes in with this. And so we have, our goal is $4.4 million and some change. We have raised $4.2 million. Huge. And we just have 234. That's still a big number, but oh my word, like just $240,000, 34,000. So we can do it, but there's still work to be done. So thank you to also all the, see, where are we? All our early supporters, you know who you were. I mean, I'm going to leave someone out, and it's not intentional. Here are all of our, we've got our major sponsors, we've got our major supporters, and many, many more. And we are so thankful to every single one of you, whether you donated $1, whether you donated some time, whether you donated $100,000, we are so thankful. And especially to the ones that believed in us early on and doing this. Our major sponsors, New Hampshire Department of Federal Home Loan Bank of Boston and Mascoma Bank were our two early ones. New Hampshire Department of Business and Economic Affairs, that is Invest New Hampshire. They gave us $850,000, like huge. So we are so thankful. And then our major supporters and the many more and foundations. And there's a handful of anonymous people out there. I don't even know who they are, but to whoever the anonymous people are, thank you. So it goes on and on and on. Thank you to our businesses that participated in our Community Development Finance Authority program, where we had 22 or 21? 21, thank you. 21 businesses who, nope, it was the previous one. 21 businesses who purchased tax credit, $400,000 worth. So when you see these businesses out there, say thank you, patronize them. They're wonderful. they were so excited to be part of this. Because it's, you know, it's an incredible mission and needed. And you know, people are donating in so many different ways. That we had 2 donors that are donating for our solar initiative. We are an energy efficient building. We have solar panels going up, those cost, and we have dedicated money to that. So exciting things like that. And we've had residents that have done bake sales, and everyone's just chipped in and helped out. So that's where we are, and it will continue to be built. And we've got a landscaper who is donating. Patty Free, yes, we've got a. Thank you, Patty. Thank you very much.
Patty is working with another master gardener and hoping to get some volunteers and writing some grants. And
Yeah.
so this grassroots just help that we can have means so much.
And our residents are still going. We've got 2 residents, one resident that is interested in doing a car wash, and another interested in a spaghetti dinner. And so we're just getting excited. So work's not over, but any questions? Well, thank you very much. And and I should say, did I miss anything important?
No.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. And actually, before I get started, I want to do a big thank you to Kim, very specifically on this capital campaign. She did everything. She sold all of those CDFA tax credits. She brought in so many new donors to the Visions community that we didn't have before. And really, I think we just owe an incredible debt to her. It's a team, but it's a team that would have been very poor without me. My role today is to talk to you about board governance. And I'm going to do that by talking first about what we've done over the past year, and then give you an overview of what we plan for the year to come. Last year, the board had 3 main areas that we main accomplishments in the governance area. We made adjustments to our bylaws. They were, some of it was just, crossing T's and dotting I's and adjusting voting thresholds. But the thing that applies to us here tonight is that we codified a practice that has been going on for a while, where rather than bringing a slate of candidates before you and doing an election during the annual meeting, we now bring people, have a vote during our board meetings, and then the new board member begins serving right away. And then what we do then is to bring before you now just an announcement of who those people are and introduce them to you so you can get a sense of what the board is like. Last year, we had a net gain of 1 board member, but in the process, we lost an important board member, Bobby Gross, who served on our board for 7 years and brought a lot of connections to the New Hampshire developmental disability community. Fortunately, we are so lucky to have her continue to be part of the community. Her sons will be residents of Hanover, and she's continuing to stay in the fold, and we're very thrilled about that. Over the summer, then we welcomed Susie Henderson to the board. Susie started her relationship with Visions as a mentor for the residents. She became a house manager before then moving on to become a case manager with HCRS, which is the equivalent to Pathways, but across the river in Windsor County. And Susie brings with her therefore connections to the Vermont world of developmental disabilities that we really haven't had a reach into before. So thank you for joining us. The other person is me. I joined the board when I stepped down as interim development manager. And I just want to call out Laura and the amazing work that she has done, because so many times people say to you, never change horses in midstream. You've got a capital campaign. You should never do a changing of the guard. But Laura just picked up the reins and took it, and we fulfilled all of our fundraising goals, and we just wouldn't have done it then. So thank you, Laura. Introducing the board members, we have Carl Thum, who is president. We have Carol Andrew, who is our vice president. Fred Williamson is our treasurer. I am the board secretary. And then we have Bill Black, Toby Freed, Susie Henderson. We have Scott on Zoom. And we also have Reese Madden. Wow, suddenly it went out the window. Anyway, Reese Madden, who his kids are on vacation, so they're out of town, so he couldn't be here. In addition to the new boards, we also new board members. I said Scott Gilmore.
Oh,
did I leave you out, Scott? I didn't mean to leave you out.
No, you mentioned me. Thank you.
We also had a change at the officer level. Carol started the year as both vice president and secretary, and then when I joined the board, I took on some of that responsibility. I have a tendency to get my fingers in. We also had some changing of the musical chairs in the committee at the committee level. Bill Black, who just presented for us, was governance chair and moved over to the finance committee, where he is co-chairing it with Fred. And that's been an important effort over the year, where the finance committee, which had started with just sort of Fred and Sylvia and our bookkeeper Eileen, to strengthen it, bring on Reese, bring on Bill to expand the ranks of that committee and bring on some diversity of thinking and different perspectives. So I then moved on to the governance committee, so that's why I'm standing here before you, and working with both Susie and Scott, who has been on the committee for a number of years, so he brings some longevity to it. And then Toby is on our development committee. I think I have covered everybody. The third big thing that we did during 2023 was a board self-assessment. We had the benefit of Liz Ann Payton to work with us. It's a survey, and Liz Ann helped us understand what was important about what we had learned, and how could we grow and improve our board. And that was an important outcome from this survey. Was one of the major goals that we really need to have is to strengthen the board so that we can support this effort of continuing Sylvia and David's vision really in perpetuity, so that the people that live with us have this place to live forever. So to that end, 2024, we began the year by thinking about all of the things that a board needs to do to be a good board, to be a successful and supporting board. And we've been creating committee charters, taking all of those tasks, assigning them to the appropriate committees, writing committee charters, identifying the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are necessary to do those tasks well and successfully. And then we're turning inward and looking at ourselves and understanding who are we, what are the skills that we actually have on board right now, and then what is the gap? What is the difference? What are we missing? What are the holes in our ability to do our job? So this is going over, it'll probably take us another month or two to really complete this process. And then we're going to start thinking about how we can and I'm having suddenly a blank. I'm looking at my notes that are no good at all, and I can't figure out whether I've forgotten to tell you something. Anyway, the bylaws allow us to take people, to have members of the community serve on committees. So in order to fill those gaps, we don't necessarily have to expand the board, even though we may be calling on the community to bring particular knowledge or expertise to bear in favor of helping us accomplish our mission. But over the next couple of months, we're going to start brainstorming and thinking about how we can fill these gaps. And right now, it looks like, well, our bylaws permit us to have from 7 to 15 board members. We currently have 9, and probably the sweet spot is somewhere around 13 members. And whether we fill them through committees or as members of the board remains to be seen. But right now, it looks like what we probably will be looking for is 3 to 4 new members. We have more men than women, so we are probably looking for more women than men to expand our ranks. And we have, as Carl mentioned, we have this goal of strengthening the finances. And so it is likely that that's a particular area that we will focus on as we're expanding. So I think I have covered everything that I meant to say. I know I'll wake up in the middle of the night and say, I forgot to say. And I will pass it back to you, Sylvia, for questions and whatever. Thank you.
It takes a village, right? It takes a village. Everyone that came up here that spoke, but also those that are really behind the scenes and do so much. I forgot to say 2 things though, when I was up here before that I just wanted to mention. We are low income housing. So you don't have to have a lot of money or any money. You need to be low income to move in. The only cost that a resident has when they move into Visions is board and room. Currently, that's this. We go by the state, what they tell us board and room should be. It's $795 a month, including your apartment, your living space, your food that you eat in the common area. So you could eat all your meals in the common area that Visions buys, and your utilities. So right there, you can see we're probably in the hole a little bit, and that's why we need to fundraise. I mean, just that little bit. But I just wanted to mention that because there are models like ours that have buy-in. You have to pay thousands of dollars a month. And we were very conscious that we wanted to make this model for everyone, not just those who can afford. So that's also really important. And I just also want to say, there's so many people, and I hate to, John Eller and Liz Nickerson, they helped us all along the way to secure the funding, the big dollars from New Hampshire Housing, Invest New Hampshire, and the Federal Home Loan Bank of Boston, Mass Home Bank, and just the support and the advice that they've given us through the years has been remarkable. And there's so many other people, but I didn't want to leave them out. And lastly, I just want to thank you, just my gratitude to all of you. It means so much. But we have still work to do because you have to make sure that Visions stays in the mindset that we had when we met in 2004 and then 2011. That is the mantra. It's friendships, communities, and a worthwhile getting up in the morning and having something to do, a reason to get up in